we tend to recommend the upfront for any client with a significant amount of television advertising. The fact is that history has proven that making a long-term commitment in the upfront marketplace certainly has advantages, primarily economic pricing advantages versus not being in the upfront. Oftentimes, there are advertisers who just cannot make commitments for too far into the future. In those cases, we may scale it back a bit and recommend perhaps not going for a full year's upfront, perhaps just a multi-quarter, 2-quarter deal if we can possibly structure that. But by and large, if you've got a sizable amount of advertising dollars to spend in national television, we try and get you into the upfront because history has proven that it's an advantageous position to be in.
Okay. And are those clients still very concerned about pricing with, that ratings go down but prices go up? Is that still the case?
Everybody doesn't, or I should say, none of us want the pricing to go up. But there are simple laws of supply and demand out there. We've seen audience fragmentation and audience loss, which ultimately impacts the overall supply of GRPs in the marketplace. It certainly hinders the ability to work out, or structure agreements where there isn't some amount of inflation, simply because even with a stable amount of demand, if you're shrinking supply, pricing is going to go up. We actually saw a little bit of growth in last year's upfront in terms of advertiser spending. That combined with what was a pretty horrendous year in terms of ratings performance certainly produced a significant amount of inflation. This year, I don't think we're going to see quite as much. I don't know that we're going to see perhaps the budget growth that we did last year in some places. But inflation is part of the deal when you're talking about a supply and demand marketplace.
Okay, so audience targeting is getting a lot of headlines these days. Do you consider the OpenAP Consortium a good step forward for uniform targeting across publishers?
Yeah, I think it's great simply because it does provide some uniform metric in this advanced targeting arena. The fact of the matter is that we are sort of involved in this really across the spectrum of TV-based media owners now. The fact that 3 have aligned to, in some ways, make the metrics sort of a cohesive measure of the audience and allow for reporting to be structured basically in via one internet connection, one website, if you will, across the 3 media owners, certainly is going to provide just a better look at what we're doing when it comes to targeting of those audiences.
Do you expect to see more networks join that OpenAP?
I would hope. I don't know for sure. I would think that for the most part, you could view it as a win-win in that you're basically offering something to the agency and advertiser community that is going to be simpler to use. It'll be easier to make comparisons, and I don't really know what the downside would be of not being part of it. We've had advanced targets, for many years for some of our clients who need to look more precisely at audiences, for advertisers who perhaps are in a mature place with their product offering and are just looking for new prospects in particular areas, who want to reformat the product slightly to meet the needs of a particular consumer target. So in that regard, it's not new. What is new is the automation. What is new is the sort of competitive nature of this with digital and internet advertising, where an extraordinary amount of audience data is more readily available. So that's really the new part of it.
So on the issue of cross-screen, cross-platform measurement, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, where do you think we are right now?
4. I think a lot's going to depend on whether or not we get a clear look at the Nielsen, the total content ratings, and really what's in that metric, and how solid we think that information is. And as of yet, we've got research professionals here who just have not gotten a clear view of it. That, I think, will be hopefully a major step forward in answering those questions.
So the issue of safe environment is also getting headlines these days. Do you expect that to be a significant factor in the upfronts that perhaps the networks will use versus digital?
Oh, I think we're going to hear it, it's going to be shouted from the mountaintops, or at least the stage of Radio City Music Hall in Carnegie Hall and all those places. I think that there are still plenty of places in sort of the online world where brand safety can be all but ensured. We're talking about a very specific problem dealing with what is, for the most part, user-generated content, non-professional content. That has always been of obvious concern. I think some of the occurrences have just sort of manifested and coalesced into sort of a self-examination and some very important questions being asked. I don't really expect this to be a wholesale trend back into television in any way, mainly because, as I said, there's plenty of good professional content available, in online video that we can certainly have much more confidence in terms of just brand safety and those issues.
So when it comes to linear addressable TV, do you have any experience with, I think AT&T is offering now retargeting within the household, people on mobile devices and all? Can you talk about that at all?
Just getting into that right now. But yeah, addressable television is something that we think is very important. And as we move forward in sort of this new and evolving landscape for television, in terms of what technology can do for TV and the distribution of linear TV, addressability, I think, is going to be at the forefront of what we're bringing to our clients.
So the scale has to grow. Everybody wants it to grow.
Well, the scale has to grow. There needs to be, in some cases, a way around doing everything sort of at the system end, or at the distribution point closest to the consumer. If we can do the addressability further upstream, if you will, I think it'll be easier for everyone, and certainly more cost effective. Right now, piecing together local markets and local distribution in order to bring addressability to a national advertiser can get pretty expensive pretty quickly.
But for the right advertiser, the extra costs involved in complexity, is it worth it?
For the right advertiser. For the advertiser that has multiple offerings at the same time, perhaps a product offering that could be differentiated by geography, for instance, then it makes a lot of sense, and the additional cost might be worth it. Absolutely.